The stars burned bright against the black of space, but Jack Morrison could see death in every flash of light. His hands gripped the plasma rifle tighter as another explosion shook the UES Defiant. The ship groaned like a wounded animal metal. Screaming against metal, "Morrison, get to Deck 7!" Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez shouted over the noise. Her voice cracked with fear, but her eyes stayed steady. The aliens broke through the hull. Jack ran through the corridors, his boots pounding. On the steel floor? Around him, other Marines rushed to their positions. Some were just kids, barely old enough to hold a gun. Others were old soldiers like him, men who had seen too many battles and too much death. The year was 2387, and humanity was losing its last war. The Zephyrian Collective had come from the dark between stars 3 years ago. They were not one species, but 4, united under the leadership of the insect-like Vexstar. The Vexstar stood 7 feet tall, with hard shells covering their bodies and claws that could cut through steel. Behind them came the other 3 species, each more alien and terrifying than the last. They had taken world after world. Mars fell first, then the colonies on Europa and Titan. The great shipyards of Ceres burned in space. One by one, 17 star systems went dark. Now they were here. In the Sol system, fighting for Earth itself, Jack reached Deck 7 and saw the hole in the ship's side. Space tried to pull everything out through the breach, but the emergency shields held. Through the gap, he could see the enemy ships. They looked like giant beetles made of black metal, their surfaces covered in weapons that spit green fire. "Danny!" Jack called to his best friend, Corporal Danny Martinez. Danny was hunched over a plasma cannon, firing shot after shot at the alien fighters that buzzed around their ship like angry wasps. "I see them, Jack," Danny yelled back. "There's too many of them." It was true. For every alien ship they destroyed, 2 more took its place. The human fleet was outnumbered 10-1. Admiral Kate Sullivan had brought every ship she could find, but it was not enough. It would never be enough. Jack took position next to Danny and opened fire. His rifle sent bolt after bolt of blue plasma into the darkness. Sometimes he hit something and watched it explode in a ball of fire. Most times his shots disappeared into the black. "Contact on the port side," someone screamed. "They're boarding us." Jack turned to see the alien shapes moving through the hole in the ship. The Vexstar came first, their claws clicking on the metal floor. Behind them came the gray-skinned Nethys, carrying weapons that shot bolts of purple lightning. The battle was close and brutal. Jack fired his rifle until it overheated, then drew his combat knife. The blade was made of titanium and sharp enough to cut alien shell. He drove it into the chest of a Vexstar that tried to grab him with its claws. Green blood sprayed across his face. The alien screamed in a voice like breaking glass. "Fall back," Amy Rodriguez ordered. "Fall back to the reactor?" "Room." They ran through the ship, fighting every step of the way. Jack saw good men die around him. Private Pete Wilson took a lightning bolt to the chest and fell without a sound. Sergeant Bill Cooper held off 3 aliens with just a pistol and a prayer. In the reactor room, they made their stand. The room was full of pipes and machines that hummed with power. This was the heart of the ship, the place that kept them alive in the cold of space. "If they take this room, we're dead," Danny said. He was bleeding from a cut on his forehead, but his hands were steady on his weapon. "Then we don't let them." "Take it," Jack replied. The aliens came in waves. First the Vexstar, then the Nethys, then the slug-like Morphians that oozed poison from their skin. Jack and his team fought like demons, using every trick they knew. They used the reactor's pipes for cover and the steam vents as weapons, but there were too many aliens and too few humans. "Jack," Danny called out, "the reactor's going critical. If it blows, it'll take half the ship with it." Jack looked at the control panel. Warning lights flashed red. The temperature was rising fast. In 2 minutes, maybe 3, the reactor would explode. "I can fix it," Danny said. "But I need to get to the core." The reactor core was in the center of the room, surrounded by pipes that carried superheated plasma. To reach it, Danny would have to cross 20 feet of open ground while aliens shot at him from every direction. "Danny, no!" Jack shouted. "It's suicide, maybe," Danny said with a grin. "But it's our suicide." Danny ran. Jack and the others gave him cover, firing everything they had. The aliens turned their weapons on Danny, but he was fast and lucky. He dodged between the pipes, rolled under a steam vent, and reached the core. Jack watched his best friend work on the reactor controls. Danny's hands moved fast, shutting down systems and rerouting power. The warning lights began to turn from red to yellow dot, then a Vexstar came around the corner behind Danny. "Look out!" Jack screamed. Danny turned just as the alien's claws reached for him. He grabbed the alien's arm and held on tight. The reactor core was right behind him, its surface hot enough to melt steel. "Tell my wife I love her," Danny said. Then he threw himself and the alien into the reactor core. The explosion was not nuclear, but it was bright enough to blind Jack for a few seconds. When his vision cleared, Danny was gone. The alien was gone, too. The reactor was stable, but the ship was still dying. "All hands abandon ship," came the voice over the intercom. "This is Admiral Sullivan. All hands abandon ship." Jack ran to the escape pods with Amy and the other survivors. As they strapped themselves in, he looked out the small window and saw the rest of the fleet. Ships burned and exploded in the darkness. The U.S. Valiant, the pride of the human navy, split in half as alien fire tore through its hull. "Where do we go?" Amy asked. "Earth is lost? The colonies are gone? Where is there left to run?" Jack did not answer. He was thinking about Danny, about all the good people who had died today. The aliens thought they had won. They thought humanity would surrender now that their fleet was destroyed. They were wrong. The escape pod launched from the dying ship and tumbled through space. Jack watched the Defiant explode in a ball of fire and metal. Around it, the last ships of humanity died one by one. The pod's computer found a trajectory to a small moon orbiting Jupiter. It was not much of a place, just rock and ice, but it would have to do. As they fell toward the surface, Jack made a promise to himself and to Danny's memory. The aliens could take their ships and their worlds. They could kill their friends and destroy their cities, but they would never break the human spirit. They would never make humanity surrender, not while Jack Morrison was still breathing. The pod crashed into the moon's surface, throwing up a cloud of dust and ice. When Jack crawled out of the wreckage, he found 3 other survivors waiting for him. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, her uniform torn but her eyes still fierce. Private Tony Walker, young and scared but alive. And Dr. Lisa Hayes, a scientist who had been studying alien technology. "What now?" Tony asked. He was barely 20, with the kind of face that belonged in a classroom. "Not a war zone." Jack looked up at the stars where alien ships moved like sharks in dark water. Somewhere out there, the Zephyrians were celebrating their victory. They thought the war was over. "Now we show them what humans do when they have nothing left to lose," Jack said. He picked up his rifle and checked the power cell. It was half full, enough for a few more shots, enough to make the aliens remember that humanity did not go quietly into the dark. The war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. 6 months had passed since the fall of Earth, and Jack Morrison was no longer the same man. The ice moon orbiting Jupiter had become his home, his fortress, and his training ground. What started as a desperate hiding place had grown into something more dangerous. The 4 survivors had learned to work together. Amy Rodriguez used her tactical knowledge to plan their raids. Tony Walker had become their engineer, fixing salvaged equipment and building new weapons from scrap metal. Dr. Lisa Hayes studied every piece of alien technology they could steal, learning the enemy's secrets, and Jack had become something the aliens did not expect. He was no longer just a soldier following orders. He was a hunter. Their first base was a cave system deep in the moon's surface. Tony had rigged up power from the crashed escape pod's reactor. Lisa had set up a laboratory, where she took apart alien devices. Amy had mapped every tunnel and planned escape routes. Jack had built a workshop where he modified weapons and armor. "The aliens are getting careless," Amy said, pointing to a map of the Jupiter system. They think all the humans are dead. Their patrols follow the same routes every day. Jack studied the map. Red dots showed alien positions. Blue lines showed their patrol patterns. It was like a puzzle, and Jack was good at puzzles. What about this one? He asked, pointing to a small dot near Europa. Looks like a supply convoy. 3 ships, Amy confirmed. They carry food, ammunition, and replacement parts to the mining operation on Europa. Jack smiled, but it was not a happy expression. Then let's give them something to think about. They took their stolen fighter, a small alien craft that Tony had repaired. It was fast and armed with plasma cannons. More importantly, it looked like an enemy ship from a distance. The supply convoy was exactly where Amy said it would be. 3. Ships moving slowly through space, their crews probably bored and thinking about home. They had no idea that death was coming for them. Jack piloted the fighter while Amy worked the weapons. Tony monitored the alien communications, and Lisa studied the convoy's formation through the scanner. The middle ship is the command vessel, Lisa said. It has the most advanced computer systems, and the most guards, Amy added. Good, Jack replied. I want them to remember this. The attack was swift and brutal. Jack flew the fighter straight at the convoy, pretending to be a returning patrol. The aliens did not realize the danger until it was too late. Amy's first shot took out the lead ship's engines. The second shot hit its weapon systems. The middle ship tried to turn and run, but Jack was faster. He flew under its hull, and Amy put 3 plasma bolts into its reactor. The ship exploded in a ball of fire that lit up the darkness. The third ship managed to get a distress signal out before Jack destroyed it. That was fine. Jack wanted the aliens to know they were under attack. Target eliminated, Amy reported. No survivors. Jack looked at the burning wreckage floating in space. 3 alien ships, destroyed in less than 5 minutes. It was a good start, but it was just the beginning. Over the next 2 months, they hit 6 more convoys. Each attack was different. Each one planned to teach the aliens something new. Sometimes they used explosives to destroy a ship from the inside. Sometimes they boarded a vessel and killed the crew in close combat. Sometimes they simply made ships disappear, leaving no trace of what had happened. The aliens began to change their patterns. They sent more guards with each convoy. They changed their routes randomly. They started broadcasting warnings about human raiders in the outer system. Jack was proud of that. The aliens were afraid, but their biggest victory came on Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. The aliens had built a mining operation there, digging deep into the ice to extract a rare mineral they called Quantium-7. Lisa had explained that this mineral powered their faster-than-light drives. If we can destroy their mining operation, she said, we can slow down their whole invasion. The base was heavily guarded. 50 alien soldiers, automated defense systems, and a shield generator that could stop plasma fire. It seemed impossible to attack. Jack studied the base for a week, watching the guards and learning their routines. He noticed something interesting. Every day at the same time, a transport ship arrived to collect the mined Quantium-7. The ship had to land inside the shield to load the mineral. That's our way in, he told the others. They waited until the transport ship was about to land, then attacked. Jack and Amy used rocket launchers to destroy the shield generator just as the transport was coming down. The ship crashed into the mining equipment, starting a chain reaction of explosions. In the confusion, Jack's team infiltrated the base. They moved through the corridors like ghosts, taking out guards with silent weapons. Jack used a combat knife Danny had given him. The blade was sharp enough to cut through alien armor. In the base's computer center, Lisa downloaded everything she could find: files, maps, communication logs, technical specifications. But what she found in the alien databases made her face go pale. Jack, you need to see this, she said. The files showed that the aliens were not just mining Quantium-7. They were studying human prisoners, running experiments on them. The aliens called it the warrior gene study. They were trying to understand what made humans different from other species. They're afraid of us, Lisa whispered. They've conquered dozens of worlds, but they've never met a species that fights like humans do. Jack read the files with growing anger. The aliens had captured hundreds of humans from the fallen colonies. They were keeping them in laboratories, studying their blood and their brains, trying to understand human aggression, but there was more. The files mentioned other human survivors scattered across the solar system, small groups hiding on Mars, Titan, and the asteroid belt. They were being hunted by a special alien unit led by Commander Vexver, a Vexstar who had made killing humans his personal mission. "We're not alone," Amy said. "There are others out there." Jack felt hope for the first time in months. If there were other survivors, they could work together. They could hit the aliens harder, make them pay for every human life they had taken. But first, they had to escape from Europa. The mining base was in chaos. Fires burned in the corridors and alien soldiers ran everywhere trying to restore order. Jack's team fought their way to the landing pad where they had hidden their fighter. A squad of Vexstar guards blocked their path. Jack drew his rifle and opened fire. The plasma bolts lit up the darkness, burning through alien armor. Amy threw grenades while Tony provided covering fire. Dr. Hayes clutched the stolen data files to her chest. "This information could change everything," she said. "If we can get it to the other survivors. We will," Jack promised. They reached their fighter just as alien reinforcements arrived. Jack started the engines while Amy worked the weapons. The ship lifted off as enemy fire filled the air around them. As they flew away from Europa, Jack looked back at the burning mining base. The aliens would rebuild it, but it would take months. Every day of delay meant more time for the human survivors to prepare. What now? Tony asked. Jack thought about the files they had stolen, about the other humans hiding in the dark. Commander Vexver was hunting them, picking them off one by one. But what if the hunters became the hunted? "Now we make contact with the others," Jack said. "It's time to turn this into a real war." Lisa was already working on the communication equipment. "I can modify our radio to reach the other groups. If they're still alive, we can coordinate attacks. And if they're not," Jack's face was hard as stone, "then we make sure the aliens remember what they did to them." The fighter flew through the darkness toward their hidden base. Behind them, Europa burned. Ahead of them, the war was about to change. The aliens had won the first battle, but they had made a crucial mistake. They had left humans alive. And humans, Jack was beginning to understand, were very good at holding grudges. In the weeks that followed, they made contact with 6 other survivor groups. Captain Ben Foster was hiding on Mars with 30 Marines. A group of miners led by Pete Sullivan was fighting a guerrilla war in the asteroid belt. Even a few civilians had survived on Titan. Led by a teacher named Carol Davis, who had learned to use alien weapons, each group had its own story of loss and survival. Each one had refused to surrender when the aliens demanded it. Each one was ready to fight back. Jack began to plan something bigger than raids on supply convoys. If the aliens wanted a war, he would give them one. But first he needed to prove something to the galaxy. He needed to prove that humans would never give up. Jack Morrison stood in the center of the hidden base, looking at the faces of 15 other humans. They had come from across the solar system to hear his plan. Some were soldiers like Captain Ben Foster from Mars, others were miners, engineers, and even a few civilians who had learned to fight. All of them had lost everything. All of them refused to surrender. "The aliens think we're beaten," Jack said. "They think we're just animals hiding in the dark. It's time to show them what humans really are." Amy Rodriguez stood beside him, holding a data pad with technical specifications. "We've been studying their patrol patterns for weeks. There's a Zephyrian cruiser that travels the same route every month. The Void's Edge, commanded by Sub-Commander Kextel. It's a command ship," Dr. Lisa Hayes added. "It has communication equipment that can reach every corner of the galaxy," Jack nodded. "We're going to capture that ship. Then we're going to send a message that every alien in the galaxy will hear." Pete Sullivan, the asteroid miner, laughed bitterly. "Capture a Zephyrian cruiser? Jack, that thing has a crew of 300. We're 16 people with stolen weapons." "17," said a quiet voice from the back. Everyone turned to see Carol Davis, the teacher from Titan. She was small and looked harmless, but her eyes were hard as steel. "I'm coming too," Jack felt. Pride swell in his chest. These people had every reason to give up, but they were still here, still fighting. "The ship will be passing through the asteroid belt in 5 days," Ben Foster said. "If we're going to do this, we need to move fast." They spent the next 4 days preparing. Tony Walker worked on explosive charges that could breach the ship's hull. Lisa studied the alien ship's layout, finding the best places to attack. Amy planned their assault routes. Jack made sure everyone understood the plan. They would have one chance, and if they failed, they would all die. "Remember," he told them, "we're not trying to survive this. We're trying to send a message. The galaxy needs to know that humans don't surrender." The Void's Edge was a massive ship, over a mile long and covered in weapons. It looked like a giant metal centipede floating through space. Jack watched it through the scanner of their stolen fighter and felt his stomach tighten. "Second thoughts?" Amy asked. "No," Jack replied. "Just thinking about Danny, he would have loved this." They approached the ship from 3 directions. Jack led the main assault team in the largest fighter. Ben Foster took 5 volunteers in a converted mining ship. Carol Davis led the rest in a small transport that looked like a cargo vessel. The aliens did not see them coming until it was too late. Jack's team hit the ship's main airlock with shaped charges. The explosion tore through the hull like paper. As atmosphere rushed out into space, Jack and his Marines jumped through the hole. The corridors inside the ship were wide and dark. Emergency lights flashed red, and alien voices screamed commands in their clicking language. Jack moved fast, his rifle ready. A Vexstar guard rounded the corner ahead of them. Jack put 3 plasma bolts into its chest before it could raise its weapon. Green blood splattered on the walls. "This way to the bridge," Amy shouted, checking her map. They fought through the ship's corridors, stepping over alien bodies. The crew was caught off guard, but they were trained soldiers. They set up defensive positions and fought back hard. Ben Foster's team took the engine room after a brutal firefight. 2 of his Marines died in the attack, but they managed to cut the ship's power. The lights went out and the artificial gravity failed. Carol Davis led her group to the communication center. The teacher from Titan killed 4 aliens with a stolen plasma rifle, then held the position while her team worked on the equipment. Jack's team reached the bridge just as the ship's commander arrived. Sub-Commander Kextel was huge, even for a Vexstar. His shell was black with red markings, and his claws were as long as combat knives. "Human scum," Kextel hissed in broken English. "You think you can defeat us? Your species is already extinct." Jack raised his rifle, but the alien moved faster than he expected. Kextel's claws knocked the weapon from his hands and sent him flying across the bridge. Jack hit the wall hard and felt his ribs crack. "You fought well," the alien said, moving closer, "but you are just animals. You cannot defeat the collective." Jack reached for his sidearm, but Kextel's foot stepped on his wrist. The alien's weight was crushing. Jack felt bones break. "Your friend on the mining ship died screaming," Kextel continued. "Just like your entire species will die." Jack's vision went red. The alien was talking about Danny, about his best friend who had died saving their ship. Jack reached for the plasma grenade on his belt with his free hand. "Maybe," Jack gasped, "but we'll take you with us." He pulled the pin and held the grenade tight against his chest. Kextel's eyes went wide as he realized what was happening. "You're insane," the alien screamed. "No," Jack said, "I'm human." The explosion lit up the bridge like a small sun. Jack felt the heat wash over him, felt his armor crack and burn. Through the pain, he heard Amy's voice on the radio. "Jack, the communication array is online. We can send the message." Jack tried to speak, but his throat was burned. He could barely breathe. Beside him, Sub-Commander Kextel was dying, his shell cracked and leaking green blood. "The message," Jack whispered. "Send it?" Ben Foster's voice came through the ship's speakers. The captain was badly wounded, his words slurred with pain, but his voice carried across the galaxy. "This is Captain Benjamin Foster of the Terran Resistance. We know you're listening, Zephyrians. We know you think you've won. But you've made one crucial mistake. You've left humans alive, and humans don't know how to quit. The message was broadcast on every frequency sent to every star system the aliens controlled. It included video footage from the boarding action, showing humans fighting against impossible odds. "We're not your slaves," Ben continued. "We're not your subjects. We're your worst nightmare, and we're coming for you." Jack smiled through his pain. The message was going out. The galaxy would know that humanity had not surrendered. Amy knelt beside him, her hands shaking as she tried to stop his bleeding. "Jack, stay with me. We need to get you to the medical bay." "No time," Jack said. "The ship's reactor is going critical. We need to evacuate." It was true. The damage from their assault had caused cascade failures throughout the ship. In 10 minutes, maybe less, the void's edge would explode. "Everyone to the escape pods," Ben Foster ordered. "Move." They carried Jack to the nearest pod, but he could see the doubt in their eyes. He was hurt too badly to survive the trip back to base. They all knew it. "Listen to me," Jack said as they strapped him into the pod. "This is just the beginning. The aliens will come looking for us now. They'll be angry and scared. That's when we hit them hardest." Amy nodded, tears in her eyes. "We'll make them pay, Jack, I promise." The escape pod launched just as the void's edge exploded. Jack watched through the small window as the alien ship died in fire and metal. It was beautiful in its own way, but more importantly, it was a message. A message that would reach every corner of the galaxy. As the pod drifted through space, Jack thought about what they had accomplished. They had captured a Zephyrian command ship with 17 people. They had killed hundreds of aliens and sent a message that would be remembered forever. The aliens thought they had won when they destroyed the human fleet. They thought the war was over when Earth fell, but they had made a mistake. They had underestimated what humans would do when they had nothing left to lose. The pod's medical system was working hard to keep Jack alive, but he could feel his strength fading. That was okay. He had done what he came to do. Hours later, a rescue ship found the pod drifting near Jupiter. Jack was unconscious but alive. The combat suit's medical systems had saved his life just barely when he woke up in the medical bay. Amy was there waiting. "Did it work?" he asked. Amy smiled. "The message went out on every frequency. It's reached 47 star systems so far. The aliens are going crazy trying to stop it, but it's too late." Jack closed his eyes and thought about Danny. His friend would have been proud. "What's the alien response?" he asked. "They're sending everything they have to hunt us down," Amy replied. "Commander Thexfer is personally leading the search." "They want us dead?" Jack opened his eyes and looked at her. "Good. When they come looking for us, we'll be ready." The war was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. But now the galaxy knew that humanity was still fighting. They knew that some species would never surrender. No matter how hopeless things seemed, that knowledge would spread. Other species would remember the human message when the aliens came for them. Some would choose to fight instead of surrender, and that, Jack thought, was worth dying for. 3 weeks after the message was sent across the galaxy, Jack Morrison was learning to walk again. The explosion on the void's edge had broken 6 ribs, burned half his body, and damaged his spine. The medical equipment they had stolen from alien ships was keeping him alive, but recovery was slow. He did not mind the pain. Every day he spent healing was another day the message spread through space. "The response has been incredible," Dr. Lisa Hayes said, reading reports from her computer. 43 different species have received our broadcast. Some are afraid, but others are interested." Jack sat up in his hospital bed, ignoring the sharp pain in his chest. "What kind of interested?" Amy Rodriguez entered the room carrying a stack of data tablets. "The kind that might help us fight back." She showed him the first tablet. "The Andromedans sent us a message. They're peaceful people, farmers and artists mostly. They don't like violence, but they said our courage moved." They're sending medical supplies," Jack nodded. "Medical supplies were good, but they needed more than that." "The Centaurans are different," Amy continued. They're warriors like us, but they've been neutral in this war. Their message was short. We want to study these humans who fight without hope. Study us? Jack asked. Not like the Zephyrians, Lisa said quickly. The Centaurans respect strength. They want to understand what makes us different. Amy showed him another tablet. But this is the important one. We got a message from someone called the Architect. It came through quantum encryption that took Lisa 3 days to decode. Jack took the tablet and read the message. It was written in simple English, but the words made his heart race. Brave humans, your message has reached the Kethmoran Collective. We have fought the Zephyrians for 200 years and lost almost everything. We did not know other species could resist. As you have, we wish to make contact. The Kethmoran, Lisa explained, are one of the oldest species in the galaxy. They ruled 100 worlds before the Zephyrians came. Now they're down to maybe 20 ships and a few hidden colonies. Why should we trust them? Jack asked. Because they sent us this, Amy said, handing him another tablet. The screen showed a star map with hundreds of red dots. Each dot was a Zephyrian position, carefully marked with ship numbers and defensive strengths. At the center of the map was something that made Jack's blood run cold. The Nexus, Amy said. It's their main battle station, bigger than any ship we've ever seen. The Zephyrians are gathering their entire fleet there. Jack studied the map. The Nexus was positioned at the edge of Zephyrian space, protected by over 500 warships. It was a fortress and a shipyard combined, capable of building the massive vessels the aliens used to conquer worlds. Why are they gathering their fleet? Jack asked. According to the Kethmoran intelligence, they're preparing for something big, Lisa said. An assault on the galactic core, where the most advanced civilizations live. If the Zephyrians win there, they'll control the entire galaxy. Jack leaned back in his bed, thinking. The aliens were stronger than ever, but they were also concentrating their forces in one place. That might be an opportunity. Tell me about this architect, he said. Amy pulled up another file. We don't know much. The Kethmoran are very secretive. But the architect seems to be their leader, or maybe their military commander. The messages come with authentication codes that prove they're real. Over the next week, Jack exchanged several messages with the mysterious architect. Each conversation taught him more about the galaxy and the war that had been raging for centuries. The Zephyrians were not just conquerors, they were collectors. Every species they defeated was studied, catalogued, and then either enslaved or destroyed. They took the best technology and weapons from each civilization, adding it to their own, but they had never encountered a species like humanity. Your people fight differently, the architect wrote. Most species surrender when they realize they cannot win. Some fight until they are beaten. But humans fight even when they know they will die. This confuses the collective. They do not understand soldiers who choose death over defeat. Jack understood. It was what Danny had done on the reactor. What Ben Foster had done on the Void's Edge. What every human survivor had chosen when the aliens demanded surrender. We don't fight to win, Jack wrote back. We fight because it's who we are. The architect's response came quickly. That is why we need your help. The plan the architect proposed was insane, even by human standards. The Kethmoran had spent decades gathering intelligence on the Nexus. They knew its defenses, its weaknesses, and most importantly, they knew when the Zephyrian fleet would be vulnerable. In 6 months, the aliens would launch their assault on the galactic core. Most of their ships would leave the Nexus, taking the station's defenses with them. For a brief window, the fortress would be protected by only a skeleton crew. It's still suicide, Amy said after reading the proposal. Even with reduced defenses, the Nexus has enough firepower to destroy 100 ships. But it's also their command center, Lisa pointed out. If we could damage their computer systems, we might be able to stop the invasion. Jack had been thinking about Lisa's work over the past months. She had been studying Zephyrian technology, learning how their computer systems worked. More importantly, she had been developing something she called a virus. Tell me about Prometheus Fire, Jack said. Lisa looks surprised. She had named her project after the ancient myth of the god who stole fire from heaven. It's a computer virus designed specifically for Zephyrian bio-neural networks. Their ships use living computers, part machine, and part alien brain tissue. The virus attacks both. How effective would it be? If I could introduce it to a major command node, it would spread through their entire network. Ships would lose navigation, weapons would fail, life support systems would shut down. But I need direct access to upload it. Jack looked at the star map again. The Nexus was huge, heavily defended, and filled with 1 million alien soldiers. Any attack would be suicide, but it might also be humanity's last chance to strike back. How many ships do we have? He asked Amy. 43 vessels, counting everything from fighters to converted cargo ships. The other resistance groups have been busy. Captain Foster found a hidden supply depot on Mars. The asteroid miners built 3 new ships from salvaged parts. And people? 237 humans spread across 12 bases, everyone who's still alive and willing to fight. Jack closed his eyes and thought about the numbers. 237 humans against 1 million aliens. 43 ships against 500. It was hopeless. It was also exactly the kind of fight humans were good at. Contact the architect, Jack said. Tell them we accept. Over the following weeks, the human resistance transformed itself into something resembling a real military force. They gathered at a hidden base in the asteroid belt, bringing together fighters from across the solar system. Jack watched them arrive and felt pride mixed with sadness. These were the last humans in the galaxy, and he was about to ask them to die. Captain Ben Foster was there, still healing from wounds he had received on the Void's edge. Pete Sullivan brought his miners, tough men and women who had learned to fight in the dark spaces between worlds. Carol Davis led a group of civilians who had become soldiers out of necessity. I won't lie to you, Jack told them at their first meeting. This is a one-way mission. We're not coming back from this. A young Marine named Kevin Price raised his hand. What are we trying to accomplish? Jack looked around the room at the faces of the last humans. They were scared, but they were also determined. None of them had given up, even when everything seemed lost. We're going to show the galaxy what humans do when they have nothing left to lose, he said. We're going to hit the aliens so hard they'll never forget us. And if we fail? Pete Sullivan asked. Jack thought about Danny Martinez, dying to save his ship. About Ben Foster, sending humanity's message across the galaxy. About every human who had chosen to fight instead of surrender. Then we fail fighting, he said, and maybe that's enough. The preparations took 3 months. Lisa worked on her virus while the others planned the assault. The architect sent them detailed maps of the Nexus and promised that the Kethmoran would provide what support they could. It was not much support. The Kethmoran had only 12 ships left, and they were old and damaged. But they knew the galaxy's secret routes and could guide the human fleet through Zephyrian space undetected. As the day of the assault approached, Jack found himself thinking about Earth. It was a dead world now, its cities burned and its people gone. But the human spirit lived on in this small band of survivors. They would probably all die in the attack on the Nexus, but their sacrifice would mean something. The galaxy would remember that one species had refused to surrender, even when facing impossible odds. Maybe that would be enough to inspire others. Maybe someone else would carry on the fight. Are you ready? Amy asked as they prepared to leave for the rendezvous point. Jack looked out at the stars, where alien ships moved like predators in the dark. Somewhere out there, the Nexus waited. As ready as we'll ever be, he said. The Nexus floated in space like a metal mountain. It was 10 miles long and 5 miles wide, covered in weapons and docking bays. Around it moved the Zephyrian fleet, hundreds of ships arranged in perfect defensive formations. Jack Morrison stood on the bridge of the converted freighter New Earth, watching the enemy through the main screen. His ribs still ached from the explosion on the Void's edge, but he felt strong enough to fight. He had to be. This was humanity's last chance. All ships report ready, Amy Rodriguez said from the communications station. She looked calm, but Jack could see the fear in her eyes. They all knew what was coming. 43 human ships faced an armada of 500 alien vessels. The humans had fighters, converted cargo ships, and a few stolen Zephyrian cruisers. The aliens had battleships the size of cities. "Remember the plan," Jack said into the radio. "We're not trying to win. We're trying to get Dr. Hayes to the computer core. Everything else is just noise." Captain Ben Foster's voice came through the speaker from his ship, the Defiance Revenge. "Copy that, Jack. My squadron will hit the eastern docking bays. We'll make them think that's the main attack." "Pete Sullivan here," came another voice. "My miners are ready to ram the shield generators. We'll punch a hole for you." Jack felt pride swell in his chest. These people knew they were about to die, but their voices were steady. They were ready to give everything for a chance to hurt the enemy. "Carol Davis reporting," said the teacher from Titan. "My group will target the communication arrays. If we're going down, we'll make sure they can't call for help." The Kethmoran ships hung back at the edge of the battle zone. The architect had kept his promise and guided them through enemy space, but his ancient vessels could not survive the coming fight. They would wait and watch, ready to tell the galaxy what happened here. "Virus upload package ready," Dr. Lisa Hayes reported from the New Earth's computer bay. She held a small device that contained months of work. The Prometheus fire virus was designed to spread through every Zephyrian system, turning their own technology against them. "Remember," Lisa said, "I need at least 5 minutes connected to their central computer. The virus needs time to copy itself into their entire network." "You'll have it," Jack promised. He turned to Amy. "Signal all ships. Begin the attack." The human fleet moved forward, and space erupted in fire. Ben Foster led the first wave, 12 fighters diving straight at the Nexus's eastern side. Alien defenders opened fire immediately, filling space with deadly plasma bolts. 3 human ships died in the first minute, but the others kept coming. Foster's ship, damaged and burning, crashed into a Zephyrian docking bay. The explosion lit up the darkness like a small sun. His sacrifice opened a hole in the enemy defenses. "Eastern section is breached," Amy reported. "Ben's squadron did it, but the aliens were reacting fast." Enemy ships moved to surround the human fleet, trying to trap them before they could reach the Nexus. Jack watched as Pete Sullivan's mining ships charged the alien battle line. "This is Sullivan," the miner's voice crackled through the radio. "See you in hell, you alien bastards!" Sullivan's ship rammed a Zephyrian cruiser at full speed. Both vessels exploded in a ball of fire and metal. The other miners followed his example, crashing into enemy ships and clearing a path through their formation. "Move," Jack ordered. "All ships to the Nexus." The New Earth accelerated toward the space station, followed by the remaining human vessels. Enemy fire tore through their ranks. Jack watched good people die on his screen, but he forced himself to keep moving forward. Carol Davis's team hit the communication arrays just as planned. The teacher's small ship disappeared in an explosion that took out 3 alien satellites. With their communications damaged, the Zephyrian defenders could not coordinate their response. "We're almost there," Amy said. "Prepare for boarding action." The New Earth slammed into the Nexus's hull with enough force to crack both ships. Emergency systems screamed warnings as atmosphere rushed out through the breach. Jack grabbed his rifle and headed for the hole in the station side. "Stay close to me," he told Lisa. "We need to get you to that computer core." They jumped through the breach into the Nexus's corridors. The station was huge inside, with passages wide enough for 3 people to walk side by side. Emergency lights flashed red, and alien voices echoed through the halls. Jack led a team of 12 Marines through the station, fighting toward the center where the main computer waited. They encountered Zephyrian guards at every turn, but the aliens were confused and disorganized. The human attack had caught them off guard. A squad of Vexstar soldiers blocked a corridor ahead. Jack tossed a grenade around the corner and charged through the smoke. His rifle cut down 2 aliens before they could react. Amy and Tony Walker took out the others with precise shots. "This way," Lisa said, checking her scanner. The computer core is 2 levels down. They fought through the stations. Maze of corridors, leaving a trail of alien bodies behind them. Jack's team was taking casualties too. Young Kevin Price died when a Morphian guard shot him with a poison dart. Corporal Jane Stevens fell defending a stairway, but they kept moving forward. The computer core was a massive chamber filled with bio-neural processors. The walls pulsed with a sickly green light, and the air smelled like rotten meat. This was the brain of the Zephyrian fleet, the place where all their ships received orders. There, Lisa said, pointing to a central console. I need to connect directly to that interface. Jack posted his remaining Marines at the entrances while Lisa worked. She plugged her device into the alien computer and began typing commands on her portable terminal. How long? Jack asked. 5 minutes, Lisa replied. Maybe 6 if their security is better than I expected. Jack checked his ammunition. Half his power cells were empty and his armor was cracked in 3 places. Around the chamber, his Marines watched the doorways with grim determination. They had been fighting for 3 minutes when the real guards arrived. The Overmind was the largest Vexstar Jack had ever seen. It stood 9 feet tall with armor plating covering its entire body. Behind it came a dozen elite guards, their weapons already firing. Humans, the Overmind said in perfect English. You have come far to die. Jack opened fire, but his plasma bolts bounced off the creature's armor. The Overmind moved fast for something so large, crossing the chamber in 3 quick steps. Your species fascinates us, it continued, swatting Jack's rifle aside with one massive claw. We have studied your genetics, your psychology, your history. You are unique in the galaxy. Jack drew his combat knife, the same blade Danny had given him years ago. What makes us so special? You fight when you cannot win, the Overmind replied. Every other species surrenders when they realize they are beaten. But humans keep fighting, even when they know they will die. We wanted to understand this madness. The alien's claw slashed across Jack's chest, tearing through his armor. Blood ran down his shirt, but he stayed on his feet. And do you understand it now? Jack asked. Yes, the Overmind said. It is a genetic defect, a flaw in your evolution that makes you incapable of logical surrender. We will remove this flaw from the humans we keep as slaves. Jack smiled through his pain. You're wrong about one thing. What is that, human? We're not defective, Jack said. We're just stubborn. He lunged forward with his knife, driving the blade between 2 plates of the Overmind's armor. The alien screamed in rage and pain, but Jack held on tight. Virus upload complete, Lisa shouted. It's spreading through their network. Around the chamber, alien computer screens began to flicker and fail. The virus was working, spreading from system to system like wildfire. Soon it would reach every Zephyrian ship in the galaxy. The Overmind threw Jack against the wall, but it was too late. Alarms began to sound throughout the station as critical systems failed. The lights went out, then came back on emergency power. What have you done? The alien demanded. Jack pulled himself to his feet, blood running from a dozen wounds. We gave you a gift? Something to remember us by? The virus had reached the station's reactor controls. Warning lights flashed as the massive power plant began to overload. In less than 5 minutes, the Nexus would explode with the force of a small star. You're insane, the Overmind screamed. You'll kill yourself too. That was always the plan, Jack replied. He activated his radio one last time, broadcasting on all frequencies so the galaxy could hear his final words. This is Jack Morrison of the Terran Resistance. If you're listening to this, it means we succeeded. The Zephyrian fleet is crippled and their invasion is stopped. We came from nothing and we'll go back to nothing. But we'll never bow down to anyone. Remember that, universe. Remember that humans don't surrender. The Overmind charged at him with a roar of fury, but Jack was ready. He had 1 plasma grenade left, and he held it tight against his chest as the alien reached him. See you in hell, Jack whispered. The explosion lit up the chamber like a star being born. When the light faded, both Jack and the Overmind were gone. Lisa and the surviving Marines made it to an escape pod just before the Nexus exploded. As they flew away from the dying station. They watched the virus spread through the Zephyrian fleet. Ship after ship went dark as their computers failed. The alien armada, so powerful just minutes before, was now helpless. Some ships tried to restart their systems,